To make this beautiful stitch pattern, cast on an even number of stitches. I have 10 stitches here on my needles, and I'm going to use 2 of these stitches as selvages, because in some rows of the pattern repeat we're gonna make yarn overs at the very beginning or at the very end of the row. So the selvages will keep the edges neat and they will keep those yarn overs safe. I will use the Silesian salvage method, but you can use any other method that you like. So for Silesian salvages, we're gonna knit the first stitch of every row through the back loop, like this. And then starts the pattern repeat. That is very, very simple. So we start with the yarn over, and that's the case when the salvage is very helpful. And we make a regular yarn over by bringing the yarn from the front of the right needle over the top of the needle and to the back. If you hold yarn in your right hand, you will do it like this. If you hold yarn in your left hand, then you will do it like this. So you make a yarn over, and then you slip the next stitch purlwise from the left needle to the right needle, just like this. And then we knit the next stitch, as usual, through the front loop. And this is our pattern repeat. If you hold yarn in your left hand, then it will be easier for you to make this yarn over plus slip manipulation when you place the yarn on the left needle and then insert the tip of the right needle under the yarn and into the stitch, like this. And then slip the stitch off the left needle, making a yarn over and slipping the stitch all in one shot. So that's very efficient. And then we knit one stitch. And we keep doing the same thing until we get to the last stitch of the row. This is our second salvage stitch, and we're gonna slip it purlwise with the yarn in front of the work. So I bring the yarn to the front of the work and then slip the stitch purlwise to the right needle. This was the first row of the pattern repeat, and this row is a wrong side row. So when we turn the work, that's when we're gonna see the right side. And in the right side row, we do a very simple thing. We simply knit all stitches, but we treat those duos of yarn over plus a stitch as one stitch. So that's easy. We start with knitting the first stitch of the row through the back loop, because that's our salvage stitch. And then we simply knit the solo stitches, like this one, and knit those duos of the stitch and the yarn over, like this one. And we keep knitting away until we get to the last stitch of the row. Once we knit the last pair of yarn over and stitch, we come to the last stitch. This is our salvage, so we bring the yarn to the front of the work and slip the stitch purlwise from the left needle to the right needle. And this is the end of the second row, which is a right side row. So this is the right side of the work. Now we turn the work and go to the row number 3. This is a wrong side row. We started by knitting the first stitch through the back loop. That's our Silesian salvage. And then we do a very similar thing than what we did in row 1, but now we need to make this checkered pattern. So instead of making yarn over, slipping and then knitting one stitch, we start with knitting one stitch. So we knit one stitch, and then we make a yarn over, either like this or by simply placing the yarn on the left needle. If you hold yarn in your left hand, that's going to be very handy, and slipping the next stitch. And then we repeat the same sequence. Knit one, yarn over, slip one. Knit one, yarn over, slip one. And we do it to the last stitch of the row. The last stitch is the salvage. Bring the yarn to the front, slip the stitch purlwise, and row 3 is finished. After this row, same as after row 1, you see those yarn overs, of course, added stitches to the stitch count. But as you already know, in the next row, we're gonna take care of those yarn overs, and we're gonna bring the number of stitches on the needles to the number that we cast on. But first, we work the salvage stitch by knitting it through the back loop. And then in row 4 of the pattern repeat, which is the last row, we're gonna knit everything again. So we knit those pairs of yarn over plus stitch, and then we knit the solo stitches as well. So we simply knit away until we get to the last stitch of the row. This is our selvage. Bring the yarn to the front, slip it, and we just finished one pattern repeat. As you see, it doesn't look like much. This is the right side of the work. Remember, rows 2 and 4 were the right side rows. It doesn't look like much, but once we repeat those 4 rows over and over and over and over again, we get to see a lovely texture of checkered brioche. We see that the yarn overs that we made, they form like those little kind of bumps on top of the fabric. And those little bumps, as you see, like especially you can see it especially well when we turn the fabric a little bit and look at the angle. Those little bumps are arranged in a nice, neat, checkered pattern. So that's what checkered brioche is. The wrong side of the work looks a lot like the garter stitch, because this stitch pattern is based on garter stitch, and it behaves a lot like garter stitch. See, it doesn't curl, it is quite stable, it has a lot of elasticity, but it has this beautiful squishiness of brioche, which is especially nice for warm projects like hats, sweaters, and cardigans. When the time comes to bind off stitches, for best results, do it in a right side row, so in rows 2 or 4 of the stitch pattern. And as you bind off stitches, you knit those solo stitches and you knit the duos of the yarn over plus stitch before you pass one stitch over the other, just as we did in row 4 of the pattern repeat. If you find this tutorial helpful, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon to be notified every time I publish a new video. Happy knitting, my friend. I'll talk to you in the next tutorial.